Hello everyone, my name is Christian, and today I'm going to go over mute. Similarly to the last operator guide, this is an operator guide specifically targeted towards the competitive community, and therefore I'm not going to display unnecessary information. Let's start with the basics. As for mute's loadout, most of the time you'll run the shotgun SMG-11. There's no reason to run the pistol. The bulletproof camera may be ran in certain strats, but most of the time you will be using a C4 due to the inherent plant denial, late round, and fragging potential of the C4. Certain strats might ask you to run the MP5K, as Rogue used to do during the Berlin Major, but now that it has no ACOG, there's most of the time not going to be an actual benefit to running the MP5K over the shotgun, which gives you an instant kill close range and allows you to take long to medium range engagements. His gadget is very simple. In the current meta, it is a counter to everything, for the most part, almost everything, but I'll go more into detail once we're in the lobby.
Surveillance on bomb.
In today's video, I do not have a friend who can give all the best examples, but I'll do the best with what I have. So, the very first thing Mute can do is obviously set up sight. So, in theory, Mute is already a good anchor. He can set up sight. He has a shotgun for close range engagements or an SMG-11 for the long range ones. Next, his ability is to counter drones on paper. But as more and more operators that rely on info, rely on electronic gadgets, and so forth were released, the less his main ability is to deny drones. Now, it's more so to counter operators, but nonetheless, it is important to go over the classical uses of mute. So the first use is obviously to deny drones. You put down a mute jammer on a drone hole, they cannot drone through it. You put down a mute jammer on a staircase that teams will drone up, and then they cannot drone it. So, you get the idea. They can't drone past a mute jammer. The very next thing that mute is able to do is to deny walls. A crude example of how mute is able to deny walls would be this. You put down a mute jammer, and then in this circle they cannot get the wall. There is an issue with this, however. Teams nowadays, as a thermite or an ace, can go upside down rappel, get the top of the wall, and it still opens it. Mute does not really do much other than force teams to spend an extra 3 or 5 seconds to open up the wall. So you really should not be using mute as wall denial in the current meta, but there are certain walls which you cannot rappel on, such as this wall over here in con, that if you do get it with a mute jammer, there's actually no way they open it up without going below. So mute can be used to deny very specific walls such as this. However, in most scenarios, you really should not be using mute as a wall now. Now, let me give a good example of how to use mute. In the current meta, if you're holding rafters, what a lot of teams will do is bring a Grim. You know, they'll bring a Capitao. While mute can't counter Capitao, of course, if you ban Capitao on this map, the only thing they have is to bring a Grim and a Montaigne. Grim is countered by mute. If you are in the radius of a mute jammer, such as this, and they Grim you, they can't see you. Grim is ineffective against mute jammers. So already, you have Grim that gets countered, which is very strong for this current meta. So it allows you to hold very, strong spots, same as here. If you're sitting over here, they can't Grim you, they can't Dokubi call you. They can drone you maybe, if they drone right here, or they drive a drone underneath the table, but they can't really force you out of this spot unless they go below, have a Capitao, or a grenade. They can't really force you out of the spot with electronic utility. If you're getting a Dokubi call, and you have, let's say, as a crude example, you have a mute jammer top red. You are playing close on a breach and a Dokkaebi call. Now they know you're here. You walk into a mute jammer, Dokkaebi call gets turned off. If they line scan you, you can move around still into range of the mute jammer and swing red, for example. So if they line scan, about to rush red, they don't expect anyone to peek it, but it can't see you swing, right? So any operator that, like any global operator is what we call them in a competitive setting, such as Dokkaebi, line, etc., where you click one button and it gives you info or gives you a strong like utility against the other team, gets countered directly by mute. Now obviously Brava, Twitch, Flores get countered seeing as they're drones, right? Some more interesting interactions is honestly just how you can counter Brava hacked drones. So like if a Brava hacks an Echo drone, that Echo drone can't get past mute jammers. And if a Brava hacks mute jammers, then this will affect the defender utility as well. C4s can get blown up, for example, if this a Brava hacked mute jammer. Mute jammers also affect certain other utility operators such as Jackal. For example, if there's a mute jammer on a door here, Jackal cannot hack while in this range. He cannot hack footsteps, he can't see anything with his visor on. So, it completely counters that utility directly, forcing operators to engage in direct gunfights. Now, I'll explain how you would normally use a mute. Realistically, you're using a mute to set up a long extended roam. This was the use of mute until they nerfed him by making him a 3 armor. Now, it's a little hard to do that. It really is a little hard to do that because you can't really set up off-site as well. However, let's say you're in basement, you put a mute jammer over here, you put one maybe over here. Alright, I got 2 mute jammers above. You put one on a wall, you put one on a window, whatever. You basically put mute jammers around so when you're droning this out, they don't know and have to face check. If they face check and you're just in a stupid spot like this, you'll kill them, and then you can drop off. And then you have a few layers, right? So maybe they're trying to drone out main door, and you have another mute jammer over here with somebody ratting, right? They can't drone out. They walk in, you shoot them, etc. You basically use mute jammers to force the attacking team to play in a style where they rely on taking gunfights. They rely on taking engagements. They cannot actually fight you with info. They have to play it at the rawest level as an FPS game. Combine mute with a Mozzie, a Vigil. Solus in the current season, yes, but next season after Solus's nerf, not as much. But if you have a mute Vigil Mozzie, they can't drone you, and they are forced to play it as an FPS game, and you can take gunfights against them. This is still a very viable method of play. For this round, I want to give an example of a decent mute setup that will help you win rounds. If you're a basement, you will most likely have the default rotated blue, and while you can't do too much over here just yet, what you can do to set up, let's put down a mute jammer over here, so they can't really get info from blue deep into the site. They can only get info onto AKs. You can put one to dirt, so that way you can add shift work to barricade it off, right? If you do not put a mute jammer, they will have a drone here, and if you're playing AKs thinking you're chill, someone will wallbang you from the barricade. If you have a mute jammer, they cannot do that to you. Similarly, depending on how aggressively you want to play, you can put a mute jammer on a staircase like this, so it can't be shot, obviously. If you put it in the middle of the staircase, you can just shoot it here. You have to swing out to shoot it. And you can just play on top of it with a shotgun, and it can't drone you. So you play like this, and then boom. Right? And then if you really want to roam, or extend upstairs, what you can do is you can put a mute jammer in bathroom, So the only place you actually have to look for drones is pool, right? If you're a bar, you don't have to worry about bathroom because they'll shoot it. So you worry about this. You worry maybe right over here, but you can always move one of the mute jammers to also cover this door, or, you know, kitchen. There's so many ways to use mute, and similarly to Maverick, similarly to Valkyrie, it really depends on your creativity and how your team likes to play. However, the main idea of mute is that this operator will allow you to play in a way that focuses purely on gunfights and focuses on taking engagements. It does not allow the attack to use live info, meaning they have to play on sound, and even then they can't use Dokkaebi. So, with mute, it is a pure gunfight game. Without mute, teams can crutch utility. Before we get to this next part of the video, do make sure to subscribe and like the video. It helps me out a lot. You know, it helps the algorithm, and I'm always trying to grow and provide more entertainment. Every other week I upload educational content, and the next week is highlight videos. So I swap back and forth. Whether you want to see nice flicks, or whether you want to learn more about the game, I provide both, and I'm always happy to assist. I also want to give a further example of what operators are countered by mute and what operators do counter mute. Impact EMPs counter mute. Thatcher obviously will counter mute. Thermite is countered by mute. Twitch is countered by mute. Fuse is countered by mute if the fuse charger's within the radius of the mute jammer, of course. Hibana is countered by mute, similar to Thermite. Jackal is countered by mute. Dokkaebi is countered by mute. Lion is countered by mute. Finka is countered by mute. If Finka is near a mute jammer and she tries to turn on her gadget, it won't let her. And if any of her teammates are in a mute jammer while she's using her gadget, they will not be healed. Nomad is countered by mute. If they have a Nomad and they Nomad off a doorway, you put down a mute jammer and it disables a Nomad. You can walk through. Knock is countered by mute. Within the radius of a mute jammer, you can see her on cams. Yana is countered by mute. Her gadget won't activate within a mute jammer. Ace is countered by mute. He can't get the wall, obviously. Zero is countered by mute. His cameras can't be seen. Floors, obviously. Sense is countered by mute. Sense wall, the sense wall in the range of a mute jammer won't activate. Grim is countered by mute. Of course, Bravo is countered by mute. I do not believe Ram is countered by mute, however. Deimos as well is countered by mute. If you are in the range of a mute jammer, Deimos can't see you. If you're getting Deimos scanned, it gives you a warning and you run to a mute jammer, it will cancel it and Deimos will not be able to actually actually scan you. The only counters pretty much are Twitch from a distance, Brava from a distance, you know, Zero from a distance, shooting it, EMPing it. That's about it. That's really the only way to counter mute. IQ is a soft counter. IQ can identify where mute jammers are, which helps people shoot it from below or through walls. Regardless though, mute is currently very, very powerful. And that is why I think it is very important to be able to play him at the moment at a fairly proficient level. I will also try to get some examples from Pro League games of his utility in the next part of the video. The clip I'm about to display is just an example of mute countering Deimos. It's nothing crazy, but I still think it's something neat.
Is my number one question. There he is, over in Big Tower. Calling, by the way, Deathmark failed. Leaves out because
he's standing near the mute jammer.
Mute jammer on the opposite side of the wall.
And that would be it. I mean, I could litter the video with a bunch of examples, but I think the point is redundant. To end the video, once again, make sure to subscribe and like the video, and let me know in the comments what operator you want me to do next, or if you don't want an operator guide, what guide do you want? You know, how to find a good sense, you know, how to properly play a role like entry, etc. I'm willing to teach pretty much anything. I just want to know what my audience wants to learn. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.